Right. Hello. So we are now on day 6 of my Facebook live book tour. And let me show you my book, which is Understanding Children and Teens, a practical guide for parents, teachers, and coaches. I hope you've had a chance to look at some of the other lives, particularly perhaps yesterday's, where I talked about the drama triangle, because this is relevant today too. Because in the drama triangle, if you remember, there was the victim at the bottom, and then the rescuer and the persecutor. And as I explained, what can often happen is that the victim takes so much of feeling helpless and poor me that they go to persecutor. And persecutor is where we tend to seem to be when we're angry. And the reason I chose anger today was because it's bonfire night. And for those of you who are lucky enough to be able to see the fireworks safely, they can seem like anger, explosive, sometimes quite surprising, quite sudden, and maybe unexpected. So that's why we're talking about anger today. Let's face it, we all get a bit angry, whether we get angry at our partner, our children, at Boris Johnson, at Trump, at all the sort of stuff that's going on, at the pandemic or whatever. We do get angry, and we feel it somewhere, and we'll be coming on to talking about tapping and how to tap for anger. So the idea is really to pull together some of the streams, if you like, or themes that there have been over this week in these Facebook Lives. So I hope you get to look at all of them, and I hope that you put some comments below with your email address to be entered for the prize draw, which takes place on Monday, with some great prizes, some books, some art therapy cards. There's some stones, some things you can use for art, and so on. Right, so let's crack on with that. Let's put the book away. So I want to introduce the idea of a reframe to you. This is an NLP technique where you basically put something and then take it and put it into a different frame, like a different way of looking at it. So I described anger as like explosion, sort of quite fearsome and scary sometimes. You can look at it like that, or a way that I talk about it with children is like a hedgehog. So you know how the hedgehog has prickles, really sharp prickles, and that can seem like anger, can't it? These prickles. But remember that the hedgehog is protecting its soft underbelly. So it's protecting its vulnerability. So remember that victim in the drama triangle, there's the vulnerability. And then the victim moves to persecutor, and out come the prickles. The prickles are there to protect, to fend off, to defend their vulnerability. So it's important to think about what was the thing that happened before? Where was the hurt? Where was the vulnerability? And the thing is that that may not be from the thing that's just happened. There will have been what we call a trigger, something that was seen or heard or felt that really went straight to that vulnerable subconscious. So when you ask them, what happened, what's wrong, they may not have access to it because they're then asking them, sending that message up to their conscious mind, and maybe whatever just happened actually was quite irrelevant. It was just the last straw. It was that thing that sent them from victim to persecutor. But what it meant to them may have been something much more deep and meaningful, and much more much more vulnerable. I can't think of the word at the moment. A writer not being able to think of the word. Heavens. Right, so the trigger will be something that is seen, heard, felt, but we filter it through our own belief system, our own values, and all of our own experiences. And that creates an internal representation, which means something that it means to us. And that then creates a state, anger, a physiology. Well, we all know what our kids look like when they're angry, don't we? And then a behavior. And then that becomes the next event. So, what we need to do is to find out as much as we can about that, what it meant to them bit. What did it trigger? What was the feeling? What was the belief that it triggered? And one of the ways that we can do that is by tapping and using metaphor. And I'll come on to talk about the anger onion. So let's start with the tapping. We had Tappy Joe on the first day on Saturday, didn't we? Do you remember she showed you how to tap? So let's just remind ourselves of that. And this is something you can do with your child. If you have a very young child, and they're in a real temper tantrum, one of the quickest ways you can do that is actually to tap here. And this is a bit like a monkey. They love this. So you can tap like this. If you think about monkeys in the zoo when they're really angry and they do this, this is actually the spleen point. So it connects to the spleen meridian, which is where we hold anger. And it's quite an easy thing for a young child to do. And just to get them to breathe, to tap and breathe. I don't know whether I need to just lower the camera there so that you can see where I'm tapping. It's on the bra line, which is obviously relevant to us, but not to your child. So just tap here for anger and just breathe. And they can say, I'm really angry, I'm really cross, I'm really cross. But they don't actually need to say anything because they're feeling it anyway. Okay, so that's a really good one for the very young child. But for an older child, you can actually connect to that feeling a bit better, and you can start tapping here on the side of the hand, which is sometimes called the karate chop point. This connects to the central nervous system, so it's quite a fundamental and important point. And just tapping here, and of course, remember that at school, children can just do that under the desk, under the table, so that they're not too obvious. And just tapping here as well and breathing all this anger. Even though I'm feeling really angry, I'm a good boy or I'm a good girl. That's a really simple one. Even though I'm feeling really angry, feeling really cross. Now, what you can do is to ask them where they're feeling cross. Where in their body are they feeling cross? Where are they feeling angry? It's usually in the tummy, but it might be in the chest, it might be the tummy. Ask them what color it is. What's the color of your anger? So they're usually red, isn't it? And you can ask them, how angry are you? You know, on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 to 10, you know, are they a 10 angry? Are they 9, 8, 7? How angry are they? This just calms them down a bit as well as actually think a little bit. Maybe it's a 6, maybe it's a 7. Just that thinking process, just quickly up into the conscious mind and then back down again can really help. So you might then end up with a phrase that goes something like this: even though I'm red, angry in my tummy, I'm a good boy or I'm a good girl. Even though I'm really red, angry, and it's like a firework in my tummy, I love and accept myself anyway. I'm okay for now. You just have a little bit of a conversation with yourself and encourage them to do the same. You can talk with them and just to connect to that angry bit. And then what we can do is we can either tap through the body points, or I'm going to suggest that you actually do it through the fingers because it's much more portable and you can do it more easily. And just to tap through the fingers here, feeling angry, feeling cross. I'm really cross. I'm really frustrated. Why did they do that? Why did she say that? I'm really cross. And remember to breathe. So tapping can really help like that. And you can bring in other metaphors. So you might say to a young child, and keep tapping as you're doing this, and you tap along with me because actually that's called borrowing the benefits. When you tap with your child, not only are you showing them how to tap, but you're actually getting the benefit yourself, so calming yourself down. And that's a much better place to be than for you to be rescuing or for you to be cross yourself. You're actually coaching them, which is what we talked about yesterday. You're showing them a skill, you're sharing a skill with them that they can use and that you can use. So what you can do too is, as I said, to connect to the metaphor of the anger. So if your anger or if your crossness was an animal, what animal is it? So they might say, it's a tiger, or it could be a dragon. It could be, what else could it be? Some other fearsome animal, perhaps. And then when you think about that, let's go with tiger. When you think of that tiger, tell me about that tiger. And then they'll describe the tiger to you. So now thinking about your tiger, remember you're tapping all the time and breathing. Thinking about your tiger, what does your tiger want? What does your tiger have to say? What does your tiger want right now? And the thing with that is that they're projecting onto the tiger the feelings they themselves have. And it's easier for a child to project onto their tiger in their tummy or whatever animal it is than it is for them to say, I feel. So use that metaphor. What colour's the tiger? Maybe the tiger's red. Check too, because as you tap, what you're doing is moving the sort of energy around your body and things change. You know, is it still red? Is it still a tiger? Is it still in the tummy? Has it moved around? Has the feeling changed? Now, sometimes it does. I find that when I'm showing tapping to children or doing tapping with children, if I've got a client who wants to work on their anger, sometimes that anger can change to sadness. Because just say, for example, mummy's told you off for something you didn't do, or that it wasn't entirely your fault and you feel angry about it. Actually, as you're tapping on the anger and reducing the angry feeling, I'm hoping you can, I'll just maybe put my hands up here a bit more so you can see me. As you're tapping on the angry feeling and calming that angry feeling down, what can come up is maybe a feeling of sadness. Remember that victim, where the persecutor came from victim? Maybe you're actually now feeling a bit sad. Maybe mummy doesn't love me as much as loves my brother or sister. I feel sad that I shouted, feeling sad that I got angry. And I've certainly experienced that with children that I'm working with. They got really angry, they shouted, and then they feel really bad about it. So tapping on this really helps them to just tune into feeling sad. I'm sorry I did that. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to shout, and so on. So tapping is good. Using clean language is good. I'm going to carry on tapping because it's always a nice thing to do, isn't it? Especially in the morning, it really gets you sort of calm for the day. I might need that today. So think about the language you use. Avoid using words like why, because that sends them into their conscious mind and they may not know, and it's really not altogether helpful. But if they do say they don't know, you could ask who does know. Can you think who does know? If that anger was an animal, what animal is it? And then say, does the animal know why? Does the animal know? But I would avoid that. I would just accept the anger, acknowledge the anger. That's how they feel right now. And let's just tap on it to clear it and to feel calmer and more resourced. It's a really great skill. It's a great skill. And remember that even small children can do it. If your child is sort of preschool and you think, oh, this is all far too complicated for them, just tap here, or as I said, tap here. This is the good one for anger. Actually, here is good for anxiety. So if they're, I'll just show you the collarbone, it's just on here. And with the fists of it, you can have a really good old thump. And this is good for calming anxiety, which can often be connected to anger. So, both points are really easy, I think, for a small child to do the anger and the anxiety point. There are the other points that connect to other parts of your body and are good for particular sort of discomforts and feelings. But I think anger and anxiety are really good ones for small children to know. So the clean language bit really is, as I said, not asking why, but not assuming that you know, but instead to just say, tell me how you're feeling. What's that all about? What's the animal? What's the colour? Where do you feel it? Let's tap. So keep it really simple. I want to go on now to talking about the anger onion. I didn't want to put a picture of the anger onion up before talking about it, but I will post it after we finish this live. So the anger onion is imagining that the outer layer is the anger, but right inside the onion is the unmet need. And if you remember when we talked about the drama triangle yesterday, nobody is getting their needs met. So the victim hasn't got their needs met and the persecutor hasn't got their needs met. So I'm going to post in the group the anger onion exercise. So you don't need to remember it now, but if you just get the gist of it now, and I'll put the exercise and the picture up after we finished. So the first question on the sheet is sort of like an exercise sheet where they fill in about their anger. I felt angry when, or I feel angry when. And they say when they felt angry. And then I felt hurt because. So that goes straight to that hedgehog's vulnerability that I talked about earlier. So I felt hurt because. What's the hurt? What's the hurt behind that anger? Assume that there's a hurt behind it. They haven't just woken up that morning and decided, oh, I'm going to be angry today. There's a hurt behind it. And the next one, number 3, is what I needed but didn't get was. So remember, this is about unmet needs. What I needed but didn't get was for mummy to listen to me, for daddy to play with me, for my sibling to let me watch what I wanted to watch, whatever. What I needed but didn't get was for the teacher to, I don't know, help me with my understanding something, or for somebody to play with me. So what I needed but didn't get was for. Let them think about that. What's the hurt? What's the need? And then lastly, what I feared was. Now this goes to that trigger point. The trigger to the anger is usually a fear. It can be a fear that they're not being heard, that they're not important, they're not loved. And of course we would say, well, of course I love them. Of course I tell them I love them all the time. That's your map of the world. What does your child need to feel loved? And I don't know whether you've heard of the 5 love languages. This isn't really so much connected to anger, or maybe it is, but just while we're on that subject of feeling loved, which is often what is can be the trigger for a child. If you think about the 5 love languages, some of us feel loved through physical touch. I know I do. I love a hug. Or it can be by words of affirmation, being told that you're amazing, mum, you're fantastic, that was a great meal. It can be through quality time, spending time together doing things. It can be through acts of service, doing stuff for somebody. And of course, it can be, some people feel it through gifts. And what can happen is that we give love the way that we want to receive it. So I can quite happily go around hugging people. Okay, right, not now. But because that's what I need. But actually, it may not be what they need. They may need me to do something for them. They may need me to spend time with them. And this is you can actually find the five love languages quiz online very easily. And I've done that when I do family sessions. They do the quiz and we talk about it, and we actually make ourselves like a love tank and sort of put the different levels in of how much what we need of what. And it's quite surprising sometimes that a mum may think that they're showing love by I'm making their packed lunch, I'm making them nice meals, I'm reading them stories, I'm doing this, that, and the other. Acts of service, or it could be quality time. But actually, maybe what they need is words of affirmation. Or maybe we're giving lots of words of affirmation. You're amazing, you're fantastic, you're so great, but actually not spending the quality time with them. Lots of children say quality time is the most important thing, and lots of parents think that children would say gifts. They don't. What they want more than anything is the quality time. And so that would be a good place to look at the five love languages. In terms of the triggers, though, being seen, being heard, being accepted as you are. I have a lot of teenagers, particularly, who are growing into their own personality and feeling that they're not accepted as who they are, not loved for who they are. And that can make them quite angry that they can't be themselves. It's not good enough to be themselves. Anyway, I'm going to pretty much finish there. So we've used in this last session, and it is the last one, and there's the prize draw on Monday. In this last session, we're really pulling things together. So we had Tappy Jo Picken on Saturday, and she was talking about how we tap. And I've just covered that again to some extent. And in my YouTube channel, there are lots of tapping examples. And there's a group called Time to Tap, where there's some other examples in there and the opportunity to have sort of some free tapping sessions with your child. So that was tapping on Saturday. On Sunday, we had Wendy talking about our emotions. And there again, for a small child, use my mood stars so that they can recognize the sort of the angry mood star, take it off the Velcro and hand it to you to say, I'm angry, I'm cross, that's how I feel. Even if they don't know the word or don't, they can, perhaps they're not really that verbal yet, but just, even a very small toddler can recognize that face and pick it out. And then on Monday, we had Elitza with art therapy. Now you can get your child to draw their anger, to just tune into how they feel and just draw it. Now it's going to be just scribble, scribble, scribble. And that's fine. That is anger, isn't it? It might be black scribble, red scribble. Now what you can do is to just tap on that. Even though I've drawn a black scribble, I'm a good boy, I'm a good girl. Even though I've drawn a red jaggedy line, I'm a good boy or I'm a good girl. So you can tap and then you can get them to draw another picture. How do you feel now? And you'll find this is called picture tapping technique. Obviously, this is there's much more to it than this, but this is just a very easy version of it. So you then get them to draw how their anger feels next time. They can even give it a little title, and then you can tap on that. Even though I've drawn this picture, I've called it angry, or whatever. I'm a good boy, I'm a good girl, and then just tap through the points. Black jaggedy line, red circle, and so on. If you want to know more about PTT, I'm afraid you need the book. The book actually explains how to do EFT and PTT very well and gives you lots of examples. So you can use art therapy, you can do drawing, you can do that superhero exercise that Elitza took you through, and ask how the superhero would deal with anger. How would the superhero help you? And what could the superhero do? So you can draw anger, you can create a Lego model of anger. If you were to draw a Lego model of anger, what would it look like? And then you can say, okay, so if you were to get rid of that anger, what bricks would you take away? What bricks would you replace? What would you put in instead? So you can do that. You can make a collage of happy. You can get lots of pictures from magazines of happy, and then do like a sort of reframe. And in terms of, what would I like to feel like? I'd like to feel like this. And actually, as you create that, you're sort of moving your neural pathways towards that. It might be about calm. It might be about feeling happy, feeling loved, and so on. So I'm going to stop. Oh, sorry, no, I'm not. Olive Hickmott we had on Monday, and she talked about visual learning and things that can make people quite angry as well, can make children quite angry when they can't do something. Remember, victim, can't do, get angry. Again, you can use tapping. You can also reframe and think about how you would like to feel when you've done it. So really that sort of brings us to the end, really, in terms of this Facebook group book launch. And please put your email address underneath, or send it to me separately for the prize draw, and I will see you on Monday. Okay.